everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Ultimate Human Experience Podcast. This is your girl, Rashida, aka Righteous Sun. And on today's episode, we are talking all about sacred spaces, transforming your home into a sanctuary. Please remember to like, subscribe, and share. Yes, share with family and friends and those who you feel will vibe with this message. With that being said, let's get into it. Welcome, everyone. This is another episode of the Ultimate Human Experience Podcast, and you know I can't do this by myself. We are powered by the Hira Collective, and on every episode, I'm sure you've already noticed and been paying attention. We have some amazing practitioners that I get the honor and blessing to have beautiful conversations with, and today is no different. We have on the amazing Janine as well as Candice. Welcome, guys. How are you doing?
Good.
Good, thanks.
Before we begin, I like to give the spotlight over to both of you to share what it is that you do to honestly enhance the world and to help others to connect more with themselves and on their journey. And we are going to start with Janine. Please tell us what you do and what you are bringing to the Hira Collective as you share your gifts.
Thanks, Rashida. Hi, everybody. My name is Janine Baraj-Paul. So I curate experiences and products to essentially support your healing journey. So that could be through Reiki, sound healing, meditation, workshops, retreats, or gemstone jewelry products. That's just what I do. That's what I love. That's my passion. And essentially, my mission is just to hold space for healing in ways where you can really honor where you're at, honor your unique path. And I'm really excited to bring that to Hira. Beyond my work, I guess you could say I'm a dreamer, I'm a community connector, I'm a writer, I'm a really creative person. So that's just a little bit about me.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Janine. And we are so grateful to have you here once again. Thank you. Hey, Candice.
Hi. So I'll just jump in. It's hard to follow that because that was amazing, and I'm actually really excited. My name is Candice Northmore, aka Warrior Shaman. I'm a shaman, I'm a witchcraft practitioner, medium, psychic, everything in between. I talk everywhere from dragons to aliens and everybody in between that. My goal is I do readings, healings, workshops, rituals, and I also make products to help people feel more empowered to transform. I don't do a lot of the healings. A lot of it comes from the people themselves. I'm just usually someone who knows the landscape to help people go into those darker spaces so that they know they're not alone, because it's, again, a lot less scary when you have more than one person in there helping you in your healing. Yeah, I am an animal mom. I am attempting to keep a bunch of plants alive, and it's been going on 5 months, so that's going really great for me. And yeah, I'm just me.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you, Candice. Honestly, both of what you just shared was amazing. Like your intro was great. So I appreciate it. We're going to get into this wonderful conversation because this is something that I know I think about all the time in terms of like my sacred space and how to transform your home into a sanctuary. Like you spend a lot of time, if you do work from home or you've had the opportunity, I know truthfully, we all had the opportunity a couple of years ago to, we were all forced to do that. And I think that really kind of lit a light bulb under a lot of people as to what they wanted their space to look like because they were spending the majority of their time there. And some still do, right? Some people still continued on with working from home. But even still, if you're out and you work your 9 to 5 or you work a different job where you are outside of the home, the place where you want to feel the most comfortable would be in your house. And it's important to be able to create a space where you feel safe, where you feel at ease, and where you feel calm. So, yeah, how do you guys create a comfortable and calming space for yourself in order to manage everything that's outside? Because sometimes that can be very overwhelming, especially too if you're sensitive to energy. Where you want to feel the most safe and at ease and even grounded is in your space. So how do you care for that in your own environments?
I could start. I was really resonating with what you said there, Rashida, about the piece about, being sensitive to energy. I am super sensitive to energy. So when I'm like out in the world, I feel like I'm very overstimulated a lot. So coming home, it's really that space where I can just like let go of all of that like if I'm all like worked up, if I'm all, just feeling just out of sorts when I come home into my sanctuary, like that's the place where like, as you mentioned, I really ground myself and I really turn to like my inner world a lot within my home. So in terms of like creating that sanctuary, there's so many things within my house that that I have to help with that. Like I have crystals everywhere. Like I'm a crystal lover. Anyone who knows me knows that like crystals are like my life, and the energy and support that they've provided for me and like supported me through my own journey. Like I have a room where I just go, and that is a part of my house that's like my space. It's a space, well, sometimes my husband's here, my dog's here sometimes, but I mean it's primarily my space. So I go there, I have my crystals there, I have my altar there. That's where, I meditate. That's where everything in my space is a reflection of myself. So whether it's artwork, whether it's, having a special meditation pillow, anything like that, like I just constantly also change it up depending on how I'm feeling and how my energy's feeling, so that I don't feel stuck. And I notice that anytime I feel stuck or I feel like something's not moving, it means that I need to physically move something in my space, or maybe I need to get rid of something, or I need to bring something in. So it's kind of like I work with the energy of my space too, just to see what I'm feeling, because normally what I'm feeling is going to then tell me what I need to do.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, to jump off of that, because I think I think for a lot of people, that is the number one important step, is the making the inside feel good. I focus a lot on making the perimeter of my home because I do everything you do and making sure, like as you can see, I have my altar, I have my own spaces. But for a lot of people, especially because the world is so volatile is the word I'm going to use, is you don't want to bring this energy into your home. So I have protections on my front door and I have them by my windows, and I put mine is crystals as well. It's one of the main ways I use crystals is I kind of set my front door up with selenite and obsidian, and I have a protection on my door that is basically like walking through an energetic force field. So that way, when I'm in my home, I know that nothing on the outside can touch me. That's the first part of protection magic, is so that I know that whatever happened that day, the moody bus driver, the angry barista, the coworker, like that is still, as soon as I walk through my force field of my front door, I know it's not carried with me, and I'm already lighter in there, as well as I know, and I have a lot of clients that I help who are like nurses who like step in things. So even the intentional act of kicking your feet, like, and dusting your feet off energetically before you walk into your space will help a lot of people who, especially if you live in I used to live above a safe injection site, was when I started magic. So I had to really make sure none of that ick was coming into my home. And that's kind of taking it one step further, is so that as soon as I get so excited, I run to my door when I've had a really heavy day, because I'm like, just clean me before I get clean. Just take an energy bath through there. And I make sure I can see it, so that when I walk in and I go, oh yes, my obsidian's there. Thanks, Mama. And I sometimes give her the finger guns, because I'm just like, thank you. Can you just make sure that that doesn't follow me? It's almost like my own little personal energy bouncers that come in. So that way, when me and my partner are here, it's just us, right? And it really helped when I was dating or going through friends. My door is, if people aren't meant to be in my life, they just won't want to come over. So like you can really use your home, because your home is such a sacred and it should be safe place, that if you have those kinds of protections up, and then do, as she said, where making sure, yeah, you feel what you're feeling inside and moving the energy in there, that will really help you kind of figure out some of the external stuff as well.
Thanks. I do appreciate you saying that part, that it affects both of you. Actually mentioned that whatever's on the outside, it's affecting the inside and vice versa. So Janine, as you were saying, if you're feeling stuck within, it could actually represent something within the household or within your sanctuary that needs to get moved. That's why we always say to either clean the clutter during like our spring season, to clear things out. And people notice as they clear things out of their space, things get cleared out of their mind. They don't feel so maybe overwhelmed or stressed or even anxious at times. But we also have the other side of it where it can really tell a story for those who have a lot of clutter or maybe just are going through some heavy things where their whole space is cluttered with things and they actually don't know where to begin. And a lot of the times it can really just be from past experiences and things that they haven't released. And now it's just coming out more in the physical, more in the material things that they bring into their household. So my question then would be, when was the moment for you where you felt that your home was where you needed to create a space like that? I can say for myself, growing up, I did not grow up in a household where I wanted to be there. It wasn't safe for me and I never felt comfortable. So when I became an adult and I moved out and I had my first child, I had to make sure that everything, whether it was the paint color, the types of aesthetics, I know I needed something very calm, very light when I walked into my space, not just for myself, but for my kids, very colorful in what I brought to this space as well, because I wanted to make sure that not just for myself, but for my kids, that they had a place where they felt comfortable and safe, something that I never received. So did you find that for yourself, that that was something that really pushed you to want to have a space that was like, this is going to be my sanctuary?
Yeah, I can go first on this one. The answer is yes. So it didn't really fully click into me until I went from a bunch of abusive relationships to living by myself in a non-safe place, in a very tiny space where it was like and above it was, at one point I was living in a cockroach infested 13-foot by 7-foot room and paying for that. And then I moved in with a friend of mine, and at first it started off great, but it was then always just a room. So I realized that wherever I was only ever allowed to just have a room. I could be as weird as I wanted. Like my parents would, like I could paint my room whatever color, but none of me was allowed to seep into the rest of the house. Like I couldn't bring my colorful, weird stuff anywhere else. And so it wasn't until I moved in with Mark and this was his place until I think I was here for about a year and a half and really stepping into shamanism. And I remember looking at him being like, I want to make our living room fairy themed. And I want to hang plants, fake plants from the walls and things like that. And he looked and he was like, fuck yeah. And I was like, yeah. So like if you walk into my house now that I'm even more in company, it's like this is the most boring room. It has cool stuff on it, but I painted the ceiling a weird color and there is butterflies, metallic pink butterflies up there with an overbed canopy with plants in it and fairy lights. And we call them vibe days, where I have things where the vibe of my home, because we are very playful and fun individuals. We're big nerds, big board games. But I also made sure to ask his opinion every step of the way because we co-created. I'm very lucky that he doesn't care, but not in a way where he doesn't care about the space, in the way where he trusts me and is like, yes, this is what I would like. So he has his Pokemon posters in our fairy living room. And that's also super important when you're co-creating a space, is making sure everybody living there has input. So again, with children, right? One of my biggest inner healing child was making sure that I drew something and put it on the fridge, because that never happened when I was a kid. So even having kids, we don't have any yet, but there's still dog beds everywhere and dog toys and things, just to make sure everything that lives here has a say and has something in every single room.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Janine, what about you?
Yeah, I can resonate with a lot of the things you said. I feel that only recently, I'd probably say in the last maybe 3 years, that I've fully embraced making my home a sanctuary, because I feel that in all the other places that I was living, it was like I had to almost hide. I couldn't like fully express, I couldn't fully just be me. And because of that, then my space was not fully reflective of me. It wasn't that place where I'd feel like, okay, I can go here to just feel totally connected to myself, totally comfortable, totally free to express and be creative. I hadn't really felt that. And I would say 3 years ago when my husband and I we moved into our current apartment, like this was our space where we could fully just be like, okay, like this is our space. And like we could just start to create what we wanted to create. And like that process, I would say it honestly took maybe up until a year ago to fully get settled in our space. And like I was constantly moving things around, constantly getting rid of things, like questioning whether these things actually reflect me. Does it make me happy when I look at this? Does my energy feel right with this like vase over here? Just things like that, like really looking at what's in my space physically, because some of it, was representative of things that like I no longer felt connected to, or I felt like it represented a time in my life that wasn't so great. And although that thing was really nice that I'm looking at, it looks pretty and all that, like the energy behind it didn't represent an energy I wanted to carry forward in my life. So I feel like now I'm kind of like at that place where when I look at the things in my home, I'm like, this is who I am. Like, this is actually who I am at my core. There's plants everywhere. There's like really colorful paintings everywhere. There's crystals everywhere. My altars are like in multiple rooms. Like, I can just fully express myself. So when I step into any room in my house, like I see myself there. And like for my partner, he sees himself there too. And, like it was mentioned, like my dog also has like all these things all over the house. So it's like, it's reflective of all of us, right? Because I think that's, like it was mentioned, like that's the important thing. Like when we're in our home, like it needs to feel like it's an extension of us in like our, I guess you could say like truest form, and not like, you know, we're not like making our space smaller or dimming our light in our space. We just need to be able to fully express within our space. So
I
I
appreciate.
find, yeah, sorry, I was just going to add to that because, yeah, and I find people are scared to change their home. Like, just because you did all this work and I did all this work repainting that wall, if in 2 years now I'm like, I am no longer resonating with green, I need bright orange, right? Like, it doesn't have to stay that way forever. And
mhm.
especially if people can't do that now and are, let's say they're trying to get out of a sticky situation and this is kind of one of those things where they're like, oh yeah, I guess I am just kind of in the closet in my own home and I don't want to be there. Know that it's just for now. Work on getting
Yeah,
yourself safe so that you can be in every room. And know that it can change with you change. Like I used to hate the color green because my dad hated the color green and half my house is now green, right? Like we don't have to be stuck on colors. The nice thing of why I love crystals is I can move them around and I can change them and I can change up my altar when I'm feeling stuck or stagnant, or we can try switching where the couch and the TV is and things like that. And that's kind of the beautiful part about your home is it's your home, so you can make that choice to do it if you feel called to.
Yeah, I love how you guys both mentioned first about the co-creation and that it's not just your space, but you look at your space as a whole, because I think that is so important. And I think that goes missing sometimes when people have to share spaces. There's always a resistance or a fight for. And like what you said, in that process, people either have to dim to accommodate, or some people are like, yeah, I'm not going to let you do that. And I'm going to make all the choices and the decisions. What do you think is like the fear for some people in terms of changing things around? That fear of change within their household, to me, sounds like a fear of something within themselves that they don't even recognize, or maybe like they don't realize that, right? But we see that in some people who might keep the same sofa even though they know it needs to be changed. We also, and no shame to those, but we all do remember those that used to have like the plastic cover over their sofas and would keep them for like years and years, knowing that maybe you actually do need to change, you need to switch up the space. What do you think is that thing for people that holds them back?
I think it's the judgment because if your home is an extension of you, and then someone comes over and says, ew, you painted your room this way, they're not judging your living room, they're judging a part of you. And especially now, there's a lot of influencers and things like that that might want something different from you. I have this sometimes when I do shows that don't go well or things like that, or even I get nervous still when I do readings or if I do healings and things, because it's when I show up for people, when I show up in my home, I show up as me. So if you don't like my sofa, or you don't like my fairy room, or you don't like that Egypt is next to the fairies, next to the mermaids, and you don't understand it, you're not just understanding why I live this way, you're not understanding me as a person because it's an extension of myself. And so I think it's fear of fitting in, it's fear of not having community. So my in-laws have said, "Oh, don't you think that's weird? What about resale value?" And I'm like, I can paint it when we want to sell it. Doesn't mean I have to live this way because someone else won't like it. So I'm gonna live in my house, and then when we decide to sell it, I'll deal with it later.
Mm, yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I resonate with what you said there. And I think too, I feel like some people might be afraid of the change too, because once you make a change, there's another energy that comes along with it that you might not be accustomed to, right? Like, I don't know, I can speak for myself. Like when I have changed around an entire room in my place, and it was like literally like one moment I just walked into the living room and I'm like, I can't do this anymore. I need to change everything. And like in that moment, like I felt like this, I don't know, it was almost like a feeling in the pit of my stomach. I'm like, "Oh, if I change all this around, what does that mean for me? Like, what's next? Like what energy is coming next?" It's almost like that fear of the unknown sometimes, and what that energy change is going to bring for you, because you're so used to doing things a certain way, or you're so used to a certain pattern, or so used to a certain, I guess, just like way of living and a way of being. And like once you change that energy around, it's going to bring something new that you might not be used to, or might just be fearful of it.
Yeah, I like that you said that fear of change in terms of changing the space then alters your energy.
Hmm.
I think we don't realize that as we're changing our space and moving energy around, we're also moving energy within us, like
Yeah.
that we're not aware of. And then all of a sudden we start to feel that and we're like, what is this feeling? I'm not sure. And we start to question not us, but we start to question the space because say maybe that wasn't the right color, or maybe
Hmm.
I shouldn't have thrown that one thing out, or maybe I should hold on to this for a little bit longer. What do you feel in terms of as a healer and the way that a lot of us share in terms of sharing, like what you said about crystals and having certain places in your space where you have things energetically? Like, for example, for myself, I have over the door sweetgrass, and I keep those things there in certain points. I change certain things around depending on whether it just needs to be changed. But for people who've never done that before but are still finding that they, even though they've, let's say they've changed their entire space, but they still feel that there's an energy or something that doesn't feel right, what would be your advice to them in terms of the change that needs to be made? Because for some people, they're unaware that these type of herbs and certain things, crystals, actually do hold a lot of energy and actually can rebalance a room, right? I mean, when we think about feng shui and certain things, people might look at that and say, "Oh, it's not real." But then you can move something, or perhaps not have a mirror in front of the bed, or whatever it might be, that it does actually play a huge role in how we create our space, how we move our energy around.
Yeah, I could start with that one. There's a couple things, like I feel first and foremost like really supporting people to tap into their intuition of what they're feeling in that moment, because I think sometimes like we go right to like, oh, this feels awful, and then like we'll keep doing, and like keep trying to fix, and in that moment of fixing, we're not even tapping into what we're feeling. So like I would really start with really supporting someone to really tap into their intuition. So for example, when I've done Reiki for folks, like if they have gone through moments like that where they need changes and they know that there's a change that needs to happen, it's really supporting them in that session to really tap into their intuition and look at where those blocks might be within themselves that might be preventing that moment of like clarity, for example, of understanding like what's going on within, so that they can then look at their outer world and be able to like actually start to unpack and really move through those feelings that they're having instead of focusing so much on the outer space. Like, let's go in and let's tap in inward first.
Yeah, I really feel that when you go through one of those larger phases of the I need to rearrange my living room, that's pretty much just foreshadowing you for when you need to go into your internal living room and what that means for you. So what do you do in your living room? Is that relationships where you and someone talk all the time? Is it where you work? And yeah, tapping into your intuition, because I do that with a lot of people with their food, right? When you start, I know for me, when I'm wearing my green and I am eating a lot of salad, I'm like, oh, I'm about to go do a bunch of heart work and into my heart chakra and do that sort of thing. So really tapping into that. And I think starting small, I think also asking yourself questions. So if you are trying to figure out if you are moving around your room and you don't understand, look into feng shui, right? We have the resources now. So start being curious and trusting your intuition. You have sweetgrass, I have a broom above my door, right? We all have different things to help depending on what calls to us. So yeah, really asking yourself questions and being curious and that childlike wonder of like, well, I heard certain crystals do this. Like, does it, right? Get on Google, Chat GBT, whatever, ask a practitioner. There's a ton of us, what we do, and really tap in. So I know when I am super stressed for feng shui, the stove and the kitchen are connected to heart space. So when I'm super stressed, the first thing I do is go clean my kitchen. And by the time I'm done cleaning my kitchen, I've actually cleaned a bunch of others because, right, you're about to do dishes. So now I'm going to go walk around the whole apartment and go and find all the dishes that need to be cleaned and let go of and rinsed of. And then, okay, that's also where the garbage, and we have the garbage. So now I'm going to go collect garbage. Also, then I'm like, okay, so yeah, working on a lot of heart space just by cleaning your kitchen will help you heal the other parts of your home and yourself and keeping it simple, right? Sometimes healing can be taking a minute washing dishes and allowing yourself to trust your intuition and feel and do things like that. You don't have to change the world tomorrow. You can just start with a little piece of you today and just kind of keep going that way and picking away at it, right? Because it's going to take months if you're going to rip your whole house apart and rebuild the whole thing, right? Let's do room by room.
I love how you said that, room by room and taking it one step at a time. Do you think now with social media, because we see everybody on TikTok, we have like the clean TikTok, or you have people that are just redoing their space in ways that might make other people feel overwhelmed or might make other people feel like, well, I don't have the means to do that, or I might not be able to go that route, but they feel kind of influenced to do so because everybody's showcasing or showing off their spaces in whichever way that looks. Do you feel that there's a pressure more now that we get to see in other people's homes?
I read an article about how a lot of family vloggers don't live in their homes. They have shooting homes now, right? They actually do. They have homes where they shoot in to just make content. And it's like they go to work. And I think that will help find people that are aligned for you. I do like some of the really pretty things and look on it, but I also love the mom accounts that are like, here's what my home looks like on a Tuesday. And guess what? This is clean. And it like looks like a normal house. And they really promote that. So I think it's really then also aligning yourself with what you absorb. Okay. Let's move out of this shame, right? That we all know certain homes and certain situations where it is really, really bad. But if you don't have aesthetically pleasing things, that's kind of different. So following and switching almost your perspective and your lens and finding your community that does content that uplifts you, doesn't tear you down is super.
Yeah, I totally relate to what you said. Like the alignment piece, I think is so important, right? Like I think with social media, we're so quick to just like look at things and then be like, oh, I need this or I want this, or get really caught up in, continuously scrolling from video to video that's all like showing us the same content over and over again. And that like it builds a lot within our bodies just from viewing that over and over and over. And like if we're watching this kind of stuff like within our home too, like that energy is transferring through us into our space too, right? So yeah, I think alignment is really important. So I really like that you mentioned that, Candice.
I also know that we all have pets. I realized I just cleaned my cat's area yesterday, and I know for cats, I used to have a dog, and they also love having their space, but I'm noticing more with my cat that she enjoys watching me clean a little bit, and like she knows when I'm cleaning her space and cleaning out her litter, right? She lingers from afar. And so my question then would be the importance of, like what you said, both of you incorporating everybody into the household. We know that animals can sense energy. They carry a lot of that. And the importance of creating a space for them that is calm and relaxing, but also letting them know by showing them that this is your space as well. I mean, I know some people say fur babies, but I also know some people might be like, they're just an animal. What do they know? But my cat knows a lot. Okay. So, what would your take be on that?
Yeah, I could start. My dog has like multiple places in my home that like he knows is like his spot. So he has like a spot on the couch. He has like a little, I guess you could call it like his little house in my office space where like it's under a plant and like he goes in there to just like burrow in, get comfortable. Like that's where he snoozes. He'll like be in there like, doing what he needs to do. And then there's a spot on a chair that's in the room I'm sitting in right now that he always sits on all the time. So anytime I'm going to clean anything, it's almost like he looks at where I'm cleaning and then he'll go into like I'll clean in a way that allows him to move around if he's uncomfortable. So like I won't just start cleaning everything in my home at the same time. It's like I'll clean room by room. And I noticed that like if I'm cleaning in the family room, for example, he'll be like, okay, she's taking out the vacuum. I hate the vacuum. I'm gonna go into my safe space in the office. When I come into the office, he'll like kind of be looking at what I'm doing. If I'm taking out his blankets, he'll be like, okay, you're taking out my blankets, but I know I'm getting a fresh one
Mm.
kind of thing, right? So like he's really aware of what I'm doing. But yeah, I try to be really mindful about like how I'm cleaning too, just so that like the energy that I'm emitting as I'm doing that isn't totally like ruffling, his feathers too.
I love how you said that with the emitting piece.
Yeah, we have a blended family of fur babies over here. We have 4 cats and a dog in our 2-bedroom condo because I tried fostering and my 3 are foster fails. So we had to get a robot litter thing so that it's always fresh litter so that no one fights. I even had to get actually I put crystals and I had to get like the Be Nice cat pheromone thing near the litter box, which is helping a lot. They're all chill, but like Lulu likes the one lounge chair, so that's her space. The one cat likes to be curled up over here. So we have a lot of like little cubbies that I've actually had to throw things out to make space for them because they each have their own spot. My dog hates everything cleaning, so him and the one cat will go hide in the bathtub while I'm cleaning because they know I always clean the bathroom last, so they'll just go and wait there. I feel like it's just making space and holding space. Um, they're right. I have cats. There's cardboard boxes everywhere. And I make sure I keep the ones that are perfect cat size that they can just curl up and go to sleep in. And it's also making sure of trying to be better on me, where if I trust something is precious to me, I put it up higher or I put it away. Anything that they can kind of go. So we have multiple cat trees, place for them to have fun. Basically, I treat them like children in a sense of, okay, this is like you have to have clean water, you have to have abundance of food. You also have to have things to play with and run with and do stuff like that. I also work with spirits. So when I am tired, I have some fairy spirits that I'm like, can you go play with the cats? And next thing you know, 3 of the cats are running around like crazy doing nothing. And I'm like, let's work with the spirits of my home as well. It can be like, I'm exhausted. Can you go play with the puppy? And I even call sometimes my old dog who begrudgingly says yes, but next thing you know, the puppy will go playing and start running up and down the hallway with his ball. So it's also not only I use the energy of my space and making sure everybody feels like they have enough space, but I also use the spirits of my home as well. There's some spirits here that are just here to play with the cats. And that's kind of how I run my house because I can't do it all.
I love how you mentioned that about the spirits of your space. I think we all have a tendency sometimes to forget that we are always coexisting with the spirit world. We're coexisting with a higher energy, and we might not realize that, especially if we are constantly on the go, that we are connecting with other energies, not only for us as humans, but noting that we all have different spirit guides and everything and everyone is interconnected. And then we come back to our space carrying a lot of that energy, Candice, like you said. And that importance of clearing your space. What would then be like your suggestion for somebody who has never cleared their space before? And I don't mean just like moving things around, but actually finding a way to energetically clear their space. I know some people don't mind using sage to smudge. However, for some people, it might be difficult, whether they're asthmatic, or it could be that they feel uncomfortable to do so because the smell might be overpowering or something that they're not used to. What would be then your suggestion for those who have never done it but have thought about it? Perhaps they've felt energy in their space and they're saying, I feel like something's watching me, but I'm unsure what that is. And they don't even feel comfortable to share that with anybody. So yeah, what is your take on that?
Yeah, so I live um anywhere between 30 to 45 spirits at a time in this space. They come and go as they please. Some live here. I have altars everywhere for them. Most of them have followed me, and they're not just spirit guides. Like I know about 4 deceased people who are like, you're cool, I'm gonna stay. And that's why I'm big on my protection magic outside of my home, right? So I have a perimeter around here. That's what I do with crystals. That's why I have my broom. It's very simple to do a lot of this stuff. Again, you have to trust your inner knowing. And honestly, it's boundaries. So, number 1 rule, you don't jump scare me. Number 2 rule, you don't affect negatively my pets, my husband, or me. Number 3, you do not touch me while I am sleeping, or you will get booted out a window. And there's a lot of unwritten rules. And it's actually really funny. And when you start working with your home as an entity and something you're working with versus some place that you own, some really cool things happen. So, like, I can tell you right now that I know my white cat's on my kitchen counter because there's a lady who loves the kitchen and she tells me when the cats are getting into things, and that's her job. She also lets me know when I left the stove on because of ADHD. So that's how her and I work together. And so it's really working and building these relationships like a friendship because it is give and take, and then trusting those things. So there was nightmares or that feeling of being watched is your first sign that something's not right. I call in Archangel Michael or another one of my guides. If they're super icky, I'll call in Sekhmet to really give them some fear in there and some lady power, and ask them to remove them from my home. And then I give them an offering. I find that super helpful. That's really helpful because I'm not a sage girl. I'll burn it a little bit, but I like to work in the energy field for things like that. And it's really interesting. So even clearing your space, you can do a beautiful meditation where you want to get a candle in front of you and you want to sit, you want to ground, and you want to imagine that this light is coming from inside of you and pushing everything out, out, and out. And it's moving out every single thing in your home that does not align with the house rules, which means I have to also follow the house rules, right? So there are some things that I don't move because there is someone sleeping in there. So they don't want to be disturbed. So I also have to follow my own house rules, right? Like I don't yell at them. I don't raise my voice at them. We co-create everything I want them to do. I have to show respect and do in return. And so if you imagine this white light pushing out past your borders, chasing and moving anything that does not align with you and what is needed outside of your home, and it may stay out. Most recent for me is I had this spirit in here that I was okay with. Like, it wasn't anything bad, but it was like one of those things where you kind of walk and you're just like, that's a little weird, but okay. And it wasn't until I was working with the plants And then the fairies started getting mad because the spirit was picking on them. So they came to me to be like, they need to go. They're making us not feel good. So I had to almost like, it was the first time I've ever gentle parented a spirit where I just like went to where it was and stood by the window and was like, you need to go now. You didn't follow the rules. You made people like it was such a weird experience. But then that's also something interesting where I'm like, that's my growth as a practitioner and someone who works with spirit. Because I'm like, oh, I don't need to yell and swear and do this. I can just go, okay, come on, it's time for you to leave now, little one, and kind of go on with that way. So you can use incense, you can use water. If it's something really, really scary, you can use pots and pans. And if it's something that you've tried everything and can't, you can also mess book. I do energetic house healings and house clearings on Hira, where I energetically go. I do it in the States a lot, and I'm in Canada, where I energetically go and I do readings on people's homes. I'll walk through their home energetically with permission, and I always lock the door behind me when I go. Either remove things, tell them what they need, what their house would like from them, tell them where the energy needs to shift, and give them some advice on how to do that too. So there's so many ways to clear a home that I think people get overwhelmed. So if you're crystals, start with crystals. If you're candles, light a candle. If you're into plants, do sage. You can also give your plants job to protect your home. So work with what makes your heart stir, that I call it. Like if you love working with crystals, go do that and have them protect your home and clear your home.
Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah, I resonate with a lot of what you mentioned there. Something else I wanted to add too was just also tapping into your lineage as well. Like what's been used by your ancestors? Who are your ancestors? Where do they come from? What have they used? What have they tapped into? And really getting, I guess, more of an understanding of like what's in you based on your ancestors and what they've given you. For me, like I know that like there was a lot of things like I wasn't even aware of until I really started to go into my lineage and like just explore and have like a curious mind about like what did my ancestors do? Who were they? And just really tapping into the medicines that they used as well. So I would encourage a lot of people to do that as well, just really leaning on your ancestors. Also in those moments, if you are afraid of something that's going on in your home, if you're feeling energy that you're unsure of, like tapping into them and just really asking them for support and help to move through these moments because they'll give you the answers. You call on them, right?
Yeah, I love how you mentioned tapping into your ancestors, tapping into your intuition as well, connecting to what resonates with you and how simple it can be. It doesn't have to be something that is complicated, which I think we have a tendency of, if we don't follow the right steps, then it won't be cleared, rather than trusting our heart and what feels right for us in that moment, right? Because everybody is different. Everybody is unique in what it is that they bring to the table, that what works for you, Janine, might not work for Candice, and vice versa, right? Even for myself as well. So I loved how you guys really touched on that piece of clarifying that for people who are listening, that there is no right or wrong answer in this. It's just what resonates with you the most. And then that importance of connecting with other people and getting that advice or searching it up, and to not be fearful of doing that. And even if you are unsure, to tap into people like yourself, Candice, or even like yourself, Janine, who you're well diverse in clearing that space, well diverse in creating products that also help to create spaces within themselves and within their environment that helps them to not only release and heal, but also to grow and expand. And I think that that is something that is such a gift to have, to be able to have that for yourself and then share that in your own spaces, not just for you, but for your family. Janine, for you, how has it affected your family dynamic? And Candice, for yourself as well, how do you feel that it has expanded your family dynamic from when you started to change your space to where it is now? Do you feel like it has shifted within your relationships?
Yeah, no, I think that everything has shifted. to be honest. When I think about like my own home right now, like between like my husband and I, like just creating our sanctuary and having rituals and doing the things that we know to be true for ourselves, like that has created like an even stronger connection between the two of us. And I think just in our own spiritual practices, it's just like expanded in so many ways. But I would say beyond, I guess, just the two of us and into our wider families, they don't understand. And that's something that, you know, we both had to accept. And that's difficult too, because there's that energy also coming from them of like, what are you doing? What are you into? Like, what's going on over there? Like, there's a lot of skepticism, there's a lot of worry, there's a lot of fear, because we're also pulling on things that our families have been told traditionally are not good to do, right? So like we're engaging in the things that they were told were taboo, right? So yeah, that's been something we've, you know, had to accept and work through as well. So it's definitely changed family dynamics. Sometimes if I do have to have certain people in my home, like that's also changed what I do in my home before they come over in terms of rituals, in terms of protection, in terms of just like preparing my own energy for when they have to come into my home, because I don't want that the energy that they're bringing based on their skepticism or fear or whatever it is to impact the energy of my home, because at the end of the day this is my space, right? So yeah, that's some of the things that I've had to do.
I love that.
Yeah, my husband doesn't have a spiritual practice, believes in it, but not really. Like he's not spiritual. He'll never meditate. He doesn't look at cards. When people ask him what I do, he tells them I'm a shaman. And when they say, "Oh, what's that?" He's like, "She talks to people, they cry, they hug her, and then they give her money." That's his like understanding. But difference from the skepticism and fear, he was the one who told me to quit my job to go be a shaman. So just because he doesn't understand, believe, and practice doesn't mean he doesn't respect it. So when I'm gone from home, I ask him to open my office door and say good morning to the fairies, and he'll do it. Whether he's like, there's fairies in there. I'm very blessed in that fact where I also can kind of do my own thing. But then before I smudge the house, he will be like, I'll ask him because, right, sometimes it smells, right? If you really want to do a good one, you gotta make it smoky in here. But then he'll come home and he'll be like, "Oh, you did your thing. It feels really good in here." So like whether he believes it, understands it, once he doesn't know what chakras are, he won't dive in, but he knows that the home is comfortable. He knows that when I have nightmares that he needs to wash the sheets for me, because he knows actually it was the first time I had a nightmare here because he heard stories of me and all he did is look at me. He's like, "Do you need me to put blankets over the mirrors? Is that gonna," because he didn't know what else to do, but he heard a story about covering mirrors and nightmares. He was like, "Do I have to get blankets?" I'm like, "It's okay. Relax. It's just a nightmare, but thank you." It's a lot of unintentional change where it almost is like we look around and we'll come home and this is us. Like our date night is turning on the fairy vibes of the living room and we blow up the air mattress and lie in front of the TV and make a pillow for it. Like it's also taught both of us how he knew he was introverted. I didn't think I was introverted as I was until I set my home and I was like, I have way worse ADHD than I thought because now I come home and I don't mask anymore. And I am just now me and I am calmer. And I actually, I think for the first time in my life, miss being at home because my whole life I needed to get away from home. And so within the last year or so, when everything shifted, it's been very much like the first time in my life, and I'm turning 33, that I'm like, I am excited to be at home. Like people make plans, and I'm like, I haven't spent time at home long enough, so we're gonna have to push that a week. Um, and that's a really beautiful, very terrifying feeling that I'm working through right now.
Thank you for sharing that. I love how both of you gave different perspectives of how you are co-creating in your space. I love, Janine, how you said you guys have found like an energy. You found like a balance within each other to help to support each other as you created your space, and then support each other when you have, I guess you could say, like outside interference coming in, where you
Mhm.
are able to ground and hold space to be able to support one another. Because yeah, you're standing your ground. This is your space. That is your home. And I appreciate that. I do think sometimes some people, when when we get caught up in roles, and we have people come over who sometimes want to assert that role, we find that we will fall back into those roles and forget that it is our space. We'll forget it in terms of the way that people talk to us or the way that they talk about our space in our space, right? We're like, what is happening? And then, Candice, I love how you just talked about your partner and how he might not understand it, but he respects it. And in that respect, he supports it. And that is a beautiful thing to have, because it's not only showing that he supports you in your space, but he's supporting you as a person and you as your growth. And as you continue to evolve, he is evolving with you. And I think that that is such a beautiful thing. And Candice, you also mentioned something, which is going to bring me to this interesting question, is you created a space, and we all have, and especially during the pandemic, created a space for ourselves where we got very, very, very comfortable to the point where we did not want to leave our house. And a lot of people have still kind of adapted to that lifestyle. They've also found this fear of not wanting to leave their environment. They've created such a space where they don't want to leave. But then that makes me think about those who are still working to come out of their space, come out of that comfortable environment that they've created for themselves, which sometimes has a tendency to get them stuck. And then they aren't able to go out there and meet new people, right? That anxiety then steps in. I can't lie, I'm now getting more comfortable. Like last summer, I was way more comfortable to get out of the space that I was in and get out there more and connect with more people, go downtown a little bit more. I still have moments where I'm like, whoa, there's too many people. I'm done. I need to go home now. But then there's so many people out there that are still afraid to connect. What I would say is, even though you're comfortable in your space, you can still know that your sanctuary is within you. And if you can continue to take that out into the world, you can hopefully feel confident in your interactions and the relationships that you start building. So what would you then say for people who are still feeling like they're not ready to step out, but it's clearly something that's important? Because we know connection is important. It helps with growth. It helps with expansion.
Yeah, that sounds to me almost like a block, right? Because especially with what happened, a lot of people, especially what happened with COVID, what's happening with the world, a lot of people forget that they can grow wings and fly, that they don't just need their feet, right? Because we're no longer head down, one foot in front of the other. And I think some people are very afraid. I know with the healings I do and a lot of the themes is a lot of people right now are so scared to go chase joy because they're scared of it being ripped away again. So if I stay in my house and stay numb and neutral, I can't get hurt, is really kind of what's happening to a lot of people. And I think there's kind of two different things you said. So the being energetically overwhelmed is, or there's too many people, that's just because we're all turning on. We can feel things that aren't there. And that's where you have to get your grounding practices, your shielding practices, your coming back to body and making sure you recharge. And I think because and then going back to the fear and the joy, a lot of people don't want to leave their homes or leave their circles is because they finally looked up and looked around and did not like the people they were around and are too scared to let them go because they think they have to start over. I don't think people understand that when you vibe with people and you've talked, like I lost my sister and my sister passed away. I lost my two best friends who just decided to stop talking to me all within the same year, right? That's what spiritual awakenings are. So when you find people that match your frequency, then it's just so easy to fall into us. It's so easy to have these conversations, to have these heart to hearts. And I think a lot of people looked up, realized how toxic everything was if they were in that space, cut people off, and now are scared to reconnect because that cutoff hurt so deeply. Instead of realizing that if yes, you might not be able to feel the pain by being shut in, but that means you're also missing out on pure bliss. You're missing out on the giggles with a girlfriend at their place over a glass of wine or a board games. You're missing that D&D group or that crib club that's just waiting for one more player. You're missing out on all the people who are waiting for you, but they don't know they're waiting for you. But I think it's the fear of getting hurt. And a lot of us have abandonment issues, right? Because of just how we were raised, that I think a lot of people aren't either willing or don't think they're ready yet to look in that mirror, because they know as soon as they step out of their home, they have to go face the real world. But the world is what you make of it. They don't realize that they're co-creators, co-manifestors, and that their reality and what they can do and accomplish is malleable. And they actually have a lot more control than they thought they did.
Thank you.
And I think just to add to it, you know, the part about like fear of just like getting back into the world and getting back into the things that you might have enjoyed before. It's like I've been talking to so many people about this just because like even before COVID, like I was working at home. So I was like very used to being in my space and being at home. And a lot of my coworkers were the same just because we were all remote before. And then when COVID happened, it's like it got even smaller, like the world got even smaller in that moment. And I think with going back out now, some things that I've like suggested to clients or even like that I've heard from friends is just like the importance of starting small, because like a small step is better than none at all, right? So there's a couple of people that I know that just like started with small things, like just getting outside and going for a walk, just to get out of your immediate environment and just experience just what it's like to just have your feet hit the floor, to breathe air in, to just be outside with the trees, to interact like in those ways that might appear so small, but then they invigorate you in such a big way. And then that leads to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. It's like almost like just following the breadcrumbs of like what your intuition is telling you the next thing is, instead of maybe thinking it of it in such a big way, like, oh, I got to get back out and I got to go partying, or I got to get out and go to this event or that. Like just really getting comfortable with being with yourself outside, right? Like instead of just thinking of it as something, you know, like as a big event that you have to go and do, just starting small.
Oh, I was just going to say, people are scared to understand that they can change,
Yeah.
right? So if you were a partier and don't want to anymore, that's fine. Or I know people who were like, you know what? I've never traveled, so I'm gonna go out and party, right? Like you're allowed to change as many times as you want. That's the joy of being human. That's the joy of not being chased by wolves every day for your life, is we get to go and change and be out of survival mode and have fun. So I really like what you said about the small steps, because you're brand new. You are
Hmm.
brand new as this version of you, so baby steps, small things. Yeah, that was great.
Thank you guys so much for sharing. Like, it was such a peaceful conversation. I appreciated everything that you shared in terms of the connection to your outer space and your inner space. I think that's something that we are really paying attention to a lot more with everything that is happening in the world. It is reminding us to check in with our body more than I think we've ever had before. We're realizing that we need to find ways to not only tap in, but find the resources to be able to do so and to connect with more like-minded people, and to be honest too, to connect with healers and practitioners. It's something that is becoming more of the norm and it's being celebrated, right? That whole thing of like weird, Candice, no, there's no such thing as weird, right? Then we're all weird. Then the entire human race is weird, right? But it's that thing of being unique and being able to share your gifts and to be able to share the wisdom and the insight, because those things are important. And clearly, by this conversation, you showed to many people who will be listening, as well as to myself, that it is possible to do so. It is possible to create a space, not just for yourself, but for everyone living in the home. I think that's so important. And I love that you both touched on that in different ways, is that it's not just about you, but it's about creating as a whole. And when we think about this earth and where we live, the earth cannot do anything without one or the other, right? It needs the water, it needs the air, it needs the trees, it needs the animals. Like it's an ecosystem that we're creating. And it doesn't just have to be outside of ourselves, but we can create that within ourselves as well. And to be honest, that's why I love these type of conversations. I love to connect with community. I love to connect with the Hira Collective, which has connected me to more community as well. And you can find both of these amazing practitioners on the Hira Collective. You can search through modality, you can search through ailments, and to find ways to help you connect with yourself and to help you create spaces through the products as well that you both create. To be able to just share that with others is very much appreciated. And I want to say thank you once again for coming on and taking time out of your busy schedules to be able to come on here and have these type of conversations. So thank you once again.
Oh, thanks for
Thank
having me.
you.
Guys, this is the Ultimate Human Experience Podcast. We are out. Peace.